THORChain has experienced yet another hack after experiencing one as well last week, in which the hacker stole about $8 million. So THORChain told CoinDesk that a hacker deployed a custom contract that was able to trick the Bitfrost protocol into receiving a deposit of fake assets. The network then processed a refund of real assets to the hacker. So THORChain is seemingly getting hit with hack after hack over the last couple of weeks. But Will, I want your initial take on this one.
Initial take. So there's been a few things that I've been kind of seeing circulate around recently about THORChain. First of all, I think it's important to note that they're still like in this development stage where they're only slightly progressing towards like a full mainnet launch. On the other hand, there is real asset values that have been just kind of like taken away from the system. So 8 million on the first one, and I don't know how much for this one itself. Something I saw circulating around on Twitter was that there has been notes in the code from over 2 years ago that there was parts of THORChain that were exploitable, and the developers just overlooked it and did not change those pieces of code. They just left them in there, and that's what was exploited. So it's a little frustrating to see that, as always, especially for people who are involved in that ecosystem. You want to put money into a system that works, as we saw with DeFi Summer last summer in 2020. That happened a lot. People were not reviewing the code very well, and those teams got exploited. And I think for like the long run, it's important that you get your foot out the door correctly. Teams like Compound and Aave, who didn't have any exploits, they're the blue chips now, and they're kind of the guys to beat. So interesting to see THORChain kind of falling prey to the experiences that some of the weaker teams last year faced, and a lot of those teams just aren't around anymore. Their projects aren't as powerful. Gonna throw it down to Zach, though, for your take on this story.
I think I saw Jen's hand go up. Jen, was your hand up on that?
Oh, I missed it.
You missed it. I caught it. I caught that. Come on now.
I missed it.
Well, out here not multitasking. Come on.
Old world, dude.
I'm very focused on myself when I'm talking.
Exactly.
I just off the back of what you were saying, Will, I was reading this morning that the hackers said, do not rush code that controls 9 figures. And this was a warning to the platform, which I thought was quite interesting. I was also reading an interview, I think it was on The Block, by Shapeshift CEO Eric Voorhees, who weighed on the $5 million hack. And he compared the platform. He was like, it's like a beta platform that controls a lot of money. So we should expect things like this to happen. Which is interesting because we've talked a lot about DeFi and, you know, figuring out the bugs and it being in the very early stages of development. So I thought that added some perspective here. And it feels like the hackers, you know, they're just trying to do good.
I mean, I think it's funny because THORChain characterized this as a gray hat hack to CoinDesk, which kind of falls in between that area of a white hat hacker, wherein you kind of disclose the vulnerability to the company or the organization, and they sort of pay you a bug bounty, and a black hat hacker, which, you know, kind of breaks laws, breaks ethical boundaries, just kind of take as much as they can. And in this case, Jen, as you pointed out, the hacker left them a note just saying that there are critical vulnerabilities here. You should not have rolled this thing out that fast. And while I took $8 million, I could have taken much more. So that's where they're kind of falling in the middle of those two spaces, which I found a little bit humorous for a variety of reasons. But I feel like, you know, all of these different hacks, and particularly with this THORChain one, I feel like I'm becoming like a boomer around cybersecurity, where I'm like, guys, just go really slow. Like, we don't need to rush this out. Do not move fast and let things break. So but it's a sad realization to have happened. Zach, I saw your hand up.
Yeah, I mean, THORChain is definitely getting battle tested like previous DeFi platforms before it. There is that, you know, that famous test in prod ethos in the DeFi space, right? That was uttered by Andre Cronje of the Yearn Finance ecosystem, I think last summer. And, you know, DeFi composability makes for innovation that kind of moves at breakneck pace. And I think what we're seeing is just that with this and other projects, right? There's these holes, they've yet to be fully patched. You know, these are still very new networks. And I think it's always good to showcase these stories because they do inform prospective investors that, hey, you know, just be careful now. This stuff is still kind of being worked out. I think gray hat hacker is a really masterful term of art on that one, but that is indeed what has happened here, right? These are, you know, there's a community of very savvy coders in this space who are able to do these exploits because these systems aren't entirely fully baked yet. So it's always important to be mindful of some of these risks before, aping into the latest new protocol that, guarantees outsized returns for those who, again, support these protocols from the ground floor. But I'll toss it back to you, Ben.
Yeah, I guess maybe another word for this too is a pick your own bug bounty hack in some ways. But Anna, I want your take on this. What are your thoughts around this?
I wonder if, this game of cat and mouse is actually endless. Like right now, a lot of these protocols are immature. Maybe, the coders could do a better job and so on. But I wonder, all these protocols and market tools are inherently so complicated that is it even possible to make them like invincible, or there will always be this game where there are more sophisticated protocols but also more sophisticated hackers who are looking for ways to game this system and still find way to siphon millions of dollars through some 0-day hole in the liquidity protocol, which nobody noticed before. But a more interesting thing actually to watch, I guess, is how long would it take the regulators, which are, I believe, like many legal experts believe, are already looking at the DeFi space, to actually think like, okay, enough. We got to do something about that, and introduce some really cumbersome rules for this new industry. So I think that that's something interesting to watch.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll be interesting when the consumer protection angle comes into this. I'm not sure where it's going to happen yet, but I'm sure there's going to be some calls for that, amongst the regulatory crowd.